That haven't?
No, that I'm talking about.
On the. Oh, I'm sorry.
Lawsuits.
I'm sorry. I heard it on the news.
So must have just 2 more states must have just happened.
Dana was interviewing the Attorney General from Texas, and he said we've got 3 or 4 more people that are joining us. They haven't confirmed it yet.
Okay.
But he said that's good. We're going to try to get more because we're waiting for a response from the feds.
Whenever you get a chance, Martin, you can adjust my volume, number 1.
Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. A little bit more? A little bit more? Perfect. Thank you.
Our in-studio guest, Bruce Lindquist. We're going to talk about lethal injections, federal government, and the execution of the death penalty. Okay. This segment is brought to you by Teleradio, Tu Mundo en Radio. Chismes y habladores.
If people call in, be aware that you're going to get a lot of misinformation on this.
And that's why you're here.
And now for the musical portion of our show. Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, recibamos con un fuerte aplauso nuestro mariachi. Our thanks to Mr. Maracas and the official mariachi of the Chips and Salsa Show, Javier, Victor, Enrique, Santiago, Miguel, Ernesto, Luis, Pancho, Rogelio, and Efren.
You know what you guys should do sometime too? You should do that 14th Amendment thing.
Well, we've had Ted Hayes on.
Yeah, but you should do it again. I don't know where it's going right now. They're trying to get to Trump right now.
Yeah, keep us
Like to be a
posted
part
on
of the show,
that.
give us a call too.
I understand not very
Love
many
to hear
people
from
showed
you,
up
and
to
we want to give you a
No,
$2
that's just because
$50
they
gift
killed it
certificate
at the state
to our
capitol.
Secret
How
or
many
Spine
people were
Mexican
there?
food restaurant. Once again, that number.
Other than the people that participated, 12, 15.
It's terrible.
Your chance to win. We have a very special show for you tonight.
But
Alice, you are the most trusted woman in radio. What's happening in the headlines?
I
Alice,
think it was good.
America's
and I told Ted,
Oracle.
I said, I'm happy with it.
Oh,
Because it was a
it was supposed to be
test.
videotaped, so I want to see
They've got
it.
it.
I want to see it. Is it
Yeah.
online anywhere?
I don't know.
What's happening in headlines? What's happening? What are the headlines? Trump in San Diego. Trump got his delegates. Trump will not debate Sanders. Hillary and the FBI.
Crooked Hillary.
Crooked Hillary. Emails and the FBI.
And Wacky Bernie. Wacky Bernie. Wacky social.
Zika, the World Health Organization, and the Olympics. Venezuela collapsing under the weight of socialism. And then I'll say in our segment, Chismes y Habladores, Hillary is still Satan. This segment is brought to you by Teleradio, Tu Mundo en Radio. And then
There's a thing from the state of California. With the cost of the drugs, they say that if they do 18 executions, it'll cost between $1.06 and $1.20 million just for the drugs for 18 executions.
And then add all the money. These guys that are on
And
death
the
row
trial,
for 20
a
years.
trial for a death row inmate usually
Tom
costs. Well, here in town, Jody Arias was over $3 million.
Yeah,
This you?
Jody Arias. It's just ridiculous. It's gotten so ridiculous. It's gonna look up. It's gonna look up.
okay, and our guest on the phone, then later.
Can you hear okay?
I don't know. There's news or something, right?
Yeah, is it volume, is it okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Then later, our guest is Tom Pollock, right?
Correct.
And he's going to talk about
At the headstone, he restores veterans' headstones that have faded and are
perfect.
awful. It's called Mission Restore Bronze Markers. It should be on there on your second segment line.
he's with, what's it called?
Mission Restore Bronze Markers.
Mission Restore Bronze Markers.
Yeah, should be right on your sheet there too.
And now for the music portion of our show, and then in the Martin file,
I met him at the dedication of the the firefighters at the state capitol.
Who did you meet?
This guy you're talking to.
Tom Pollock?
Yeah.
Cool.
So you're gonna try to pass by tomorrow?
What time?
4 o'clock.
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I gotta. No, my wife came in. She said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "I'm going fishing." She said, "I'm going to my daughter's house at 5 o'clock for dinner." Sorry,
That's
it's.
good. Well, so maybe it's in the future.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I might not be any good.
Sorry, somehow the volume got turned up. Could you turn it down? Thank you. Thank you, Martin. So evidently Norm is training Josh tonight. Did you want to book this person? Did you want to book them? Are they going to make their signatures?
I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. He's got. I gave him walking list and everything. So.
Thank you.
I've been listening to this radio station for the last couple days.
Oh, have you? Yeah, but
Have you listened to the Joe Walsh show at noon?
No.
That's a good show. That's a very good show.
And I listened to the Senate candidate after you guys did it a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah? Michael Savage?
No, the Senate candidate.
Oh, McCluskey.
McCluskey.
Miluski, yeah. The Joe Walsh show, every day I've listened, he has at least 2 or 3, 4 listeners from the Phoenix area, and he's out of Chicago.
Oh, really?
So people are listening to this station. Okay. Ready!
Chilo bandidos.
Headline news, commentary, and entertainment from a decidedly conservative Latino perspective. Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Friday edition of the Chips and Salsa Show. My name is Martin Gonzalez, and today is Friday, May 27th. And in the studio, we lovingly refer to as El Molcajete, is the only woman who makes any sense in radio, Alice Lotta.
Hola, Martin. How are you?
Marvelous, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Ready for this Friday.
I know, what a great day and going into a great weekend. I'm very excited. Also in the studio, Don Jorge Ortiz, El Alacrán.
Buenos, mi gente.
Scorpion King.
I'm back.
You know, it's good because, yeah, we haven't been all three been together for a
I
few
know,
weeks.
we got the band back, man. That's good.
If you'd like to be a part of the show, give us a call at 602-277-5369. Once again, that's 602-277-5369. We'd love to hear from you. And we want to give you a chance to win a $50 gift certificate to Rosita's Fine Mexican Food Restaurant. Once again, 602-277-5369. How could I mess that up? Call now for your chance to win. We have a very special show for you tonight. Alice, the America's Oracle.
I like that America's Oracle. It's a lot of pressure. You put a lot of pressure on me, but I accept the challenge, Martin.
You are the most trusted woman in radio. What's happening in the news?
And we got lots of stuff going on. Lots going on, including on my way over. I haven't seen any video, but I heard on radio they're protests in San Diego. They're protesting Trump.
Over 1,000 protesters.
What I heard that was disturbing is the reporter was saying, well, it looks like the police officers are trying to push the crowd back, but they're not cooperating. Did you hear that too, George?
Yeah, I saw it on TV.
Oh, you saw it.
there was so many police officers, and they were in riot gear, and they had it under control. They took one guy, and they just walked him away, and he couldn't even resist. There were so many police officers, and then they went to the crowd and slowly moved the crowd back, and then they let him walk on a designated area. They had it under control. There was a lot of officers there.
That's a lot of officers. And also earlier in the week in Albuquerque, there were a lot of protesters, and I watched that on
Yeah,
video.
that one was a less amount of police presence, and so they got stuff thrown at them and stuff.
Well, I saw the officers were up on their horses, and the people were throwing things to them.
At
It was
the horses,
really bad.
At the
Yeah.
horses, and that's that's crazy.
And I have to tell you real quick about that. Well, I had a friend of mine post about that. Say that's just cruelty to animals.
Yeah.
And someone reposted that. I'm going to find it and we can put it on Facebook maybe. And they actually took the post away. It's very interesting what's going on. But that's going on. Hillary's going on. You want more headlines or we need to go? Well, Hillary's going on. They're going after Venezuela's collapsing. We got the Zika virus. Arizona is a state, I think they were the 11th state to join the lawsuit against the transgender bathrooms mandated by the Obama administration. Lots going on.
Trump is not going to debate Sanders. What a
Forgot
bummer
about
that is.
That would have been fantastic.
Oh,
But he did get his delegates.
Yep.
He said he would.
he got 1239. And also on that, Bernie was on Univision. And they said, hey, what about socialism? Tell us why, it's failing. He said, well, I'm focusing on running for president. He totally dodged the question on Univision.
See, he couldn't dodge it with Trump. Trump would make him stay on topic.
Yeah, it's
on
too
that.
bad they're not going to debate. Bummer.
Bummer.
Need to have our Trump song back.
And Hillary, you were talking about Hillary, the emails and the FBI. So it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, even if there's never going to be a conviction, who's going to try her? Do you think the U.S. Attorney General is going to go after Hillary Clinton? What are they going to do with the information once they get it, even if she is found to be guilty?
I'll tell you what, I'm kind of ambiguous about this because in one respect, I kind of want her to be the candidate because she's got so much damage and she's so unliked by both sides, actually, really bad. So it might be good for her to stay. I did hear one new thing on a talk radio show out of Tucson, one of my favorite show hosts, James T. Harris. He had an expert who said that the IT people had tied her emails into a printer, and somehow that's another breach that they're finding out. There's just so much stuff. It's just so bad. It's terrible.
It is terrible. And in our segment, Chismes y Habladores, Hillary is still Satan. This segment is brought to you by Teleradio, Tu Mundo en Radio.
Hey, how about Todavía Diabla?
Todavía la Diabla. Our in-studio guest, Bruce Lindquist. We're going to talk about lethal injections, the federal government, and the execution of the death penalty.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Then later, we're going to have Tom Pollock, and he is with Mission Restore Bronze Markers. And now, my friends, for one of my favorite segments is the musical portion of our show. Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, recibamos con un fuerte aplauso nuestro mariachi.
Ay! Gotta work on that grito.
On your what?
My grito. I'll just dance.
Our many thanks to Mr. Baracas and the official mariachi of the Chips and Salsa Show band right in here in the studio, all cozied up in the molcajete. We have Javier, and Victor, Enrique, Santiago, Miguel, Ernesto, Luis, Pancho, Rogelio, y a friend. I almost ran out of gas there.
And
And
Agapito. And we have new names. We have some honorary mariachis.
yes.
And
Tell
I would
us.
like to introduce to you, to my right here, we have Orale Ortiz. Orale Ortiz, what's going on, man?
Órale.
And we have Gogo Gonzalez.
Vroom, vroom,
And then,
vroom, vroom.
and then mine's kind of boring. I named myself Latinita Lara.
I like
You like
Latinita
that?
Lara.
Latinita Lara.
Well, it sounds like Latina,
Latina.
like in the tub.
Oh yeah, Latina. Yeah.
Latinita,
Yeah,
like
that-
the little tub.
That was my swimming pool when I was a kid growing up.
There you go. You know what? That's
Latina.
funny you should mention that because I have a memory of that too. We didn't have a pool.
We didn't have a pool.
So I'd fill our bathtub to almost full, and I'd get under there and I'd pretend I was in a pool. Isn't that funny?
We did. It was Athena in the backyard.
Hey, because Memorial Day is on Monday, in the Martin File, I thought we'd talk about, have you ever attended a military funeral? Have you ever been to one, George?
I was at one in California.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the details of that? Can you talk about that, or Alice? Do you recall a military funeral that you've been to?
No, the closest I've been to is where they've played taps, but not an official military funeral.
Well, I was at a funeral where a person who was in the military passed away, and they bring in the military to carry the casket in and to fold the flag.
Oh, that's what.
And it's
Yeah, that's
very
what I'm talking
official.
about.
And it's very official the way they do that.
And it doesn't matter if you have recently served in the military or you might be a senior citizen and you served in the military 50 years earlier. It is a very solemn ceremony. It is, I would say, sacred. I mean, just the way it's done. I had an occasion where a friend of mine from church passed away. He was in Vietnam, and they had his funeral at the National Memorial Cemetery here in Arizona. And he had served in the Air Force. And there was where they present arms, I think. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And they... there
Did
was
the
a salute
21
there.
gun salute.
I think it was just 3. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember exactly the number. But they did that, and then the folding of the flag. And it's so precise.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
mean, that's the thing that's so... And it was so... Every motion, every action was very deliberate. And it was very careful, the way they were folding the flag. And then when they present the flag
to the mom,
to the
wife.
yeah, wow, I'm getting shivers just thinking about it. You know, I've seen it there, and I've seen it at Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery in Point Loma in San
Wow.
Diego.
Wow.
And of course, that's a beautiful cemetery. Hate to think of a cemetery as beautiful, but I mean, just from the view there, you can see San Diego. But you know, maybe we can talk with our guest Bruce Lindquist.
We can talk about
When we
that.
bring him in, maybe he has an experience with a.
When my dad passed away, they had the taped taps and everything,
Mhm.
and they presented the flag. But I understand there is a national organization, and what they'll do is they want to have a live band there for every veteran. And I wish I could think of their name. I can find it during the break. And they will have people come and actually do taps, or there at the
Really?
ceremony.
They'll play
Yeah,
taps?
that's their whole thing. They'll
I
ship
think I
somebody out
posted
there.
it last year, the folding of the flag. And
That's
how
awesome.
it's done. Somebody posted it, and I reposted it, and it shows all the
Done that
flag.
at my women's club. We're going to do that in the July meeting. In fact, yeah.
Well, I think it's important to understand, what it is and what it's about. I mean, there are men and women who paid the ultimate price in defense of our country, our way of life, and our liberties, and so we remember that on this special Friday edition of the Chips and Salsa Show, and we're so glad that you're a part of it, and you're listening to this show right here on 1100 KFNX, the Chips and Salsa Show.
I was going to say, we didn't have time, but we can plug Valerie's thing because they do all
Yeah,
the
that's
flags at
Monday.
the cemetery. We can do that.
And
Yeah.
that's really good. And now that officer was buried there at that cemetery, it makes that cemetery more. People may want to go.
He was shot right down the street from me.
Yep.
Oh, he was.
Somebody said that.
Oh my gosh.
How do you
there's
want me
a
to
lot in that
introduce you when I
segment.
introduce you? Do you have a-
The
That
other
was-
thing
we
you asked
piled
about
it in.
that, my grandson was one of the 19 firefighters that died in Yarnell 3 years
Oh,
ago.
was he?
It's terrible. I'm sorry.
They had a public ceremony and the vice president came out.
When did that happen?
Just June 30th, 2013.
Just a couple of years ago.
That's
Wow,
3
3
years
years
ago.
ago. 3 years ago at
That's
the end
3
of this
years
month.
Wow. It seems like it was longer, because we don't think about those things. It's nice to.
But it's interesting when you see an individual one, and when you're caught up in like 19, it's altogether different.
Really?
They had 314 bagpipes and drums
Wow.
on the floor at the Toyota Center.
Your phone guest is on the line.
Thank you.
So
Oh,
when you're
okay.
ready, just say, and now hello to,
Absolutely.
whatever.
Okay.
All right, I'll be bringing it
Couldn't
in.
tell you in your ear because you had your phones off. So
Oh,
Thank you. Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. I'm sorry. What is your name? I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Beverly,
Beverly.
thank
That's
you.
okay, but he's here. Okay.
Okay.
Fantastic. Appreciate it.
I like how you kept saying orale. That's funny.
You know what Bruce did for us at one of the Patriots in the Park? He did the flag burning and showed us how to do. That was really awesome.
Natalie came over and was crying. She said, I learned more than I ever thought there was about that.
That was awesome.
Do you have a paper with the bio or something that I can introduce you?
I left it on my kitchen counter.
You can just say, tell us a little bit about yourself, and
Yeah.
turn it over to him.
Yeah, I'll just say,
Yeah, I'll
you
just
know,
let him.
tell him I got
Cycle.
drafted in the Marine Corps in 1969.
I think
went
I'm
to
gonna-
Vietnam.
Ask for callers for Rositas, maybe plug this, and then go into the guest.
Perfect.
And the topic, which would be the Memorial Day. What are you going to do for Memorial Day, maybe? We can do that for tomorrow, too. What are you gonna
At the
do for
end?
Memorial Day?
You know, Alice, and you may want to mention too the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers
Oh, yeah.
in the context of all of this, because obviously that's a very sacred place.
And,
And the
have
way
you
they do
seen?
that-
Have you been there
Yes.
and seen them do?
Yes.
That's very cool.
When they change the guard, yes.
Oh, you want
It's
a
very
news
cool.
flash? I just saw it on the TV tonight. Ash Carter, the defense secretary, is forgiving the football player that was the quarterback at Navy from doing his tour of duty after he graduated from the Annapolis Academy. You're supposed to go do your tour of duty.
Why wouldn't he do that?
Because the guy got drafted in the NFL, and he's saying, why don't you go to the NFL?
Wow. That's wild.
Think about that.
Anyway, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. So I don't know if you want to mention that, but in the context of all of this, because I think it would be an interesting contrast.
We love Chips and Salsa. I'm Alice Lara here for the Friday night edition of the Chips and Salsa show. And we have Mr. Martin, who is Gogo Gonzalez.
Vroom, vroom.
And also, we have another co-host, he goes now by Orale Ortiz, George Ortiz. Right on. And I'm Latinita Lara. But thank you very much for listening this evening. And before we get into our next guest, we just want to mention, please call in for a gift certificate, $50 gift certificate for Rositas, fine Mexican food. $50 is a lot of money. You can buy a lot of great food there. Just call in at 602-277-5369, 602-277-5369, and give your number. I think Norm's back there, and he's training Josh. Josh is going to be permanently with us. And Josh has been to Rositas in Mesa, and he loves it. Woohoo! We like that, Josh. And just before we get into our very special guest, I want to also tell you, don't forget this weekend is the 10th annual Flags for Our Fallen. That's Monday, May 30th at 6 a.m., the Phoenix National Cemetery. That's at 23029 North Cave Creek Road. You can still sponsor a flag. You go to ridersusa.net. Last week we had Valerie Roller on to talk to us a little bit about it. And we're going to get right to our guest. Martin wanted me to mention about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I've been there. It's so awesome at Arlington. It's so cool. And if you're ever in Washington, D.C., you must see. It's a must-see. So right now we're going to go to our special guest, and that's Tom Pollock. Tom, are you on the line with us, sir? Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Tom Pollock is with Mission Restore Bronze Markers. We thought it would be very appropriate to have him on. Let me tell you just a little bit about this. If you see an old military grave marker that looks new, the chances are it's because of Tom Pollock. He's doing his part to educate others with how to restore grave markers, and he actually actively travels the country gathering volunteers to contribute to the mission, and he currently has volunteers in 44 states. So his nonprofit organization is Mission Restore Bronze. Tom, so glad you're with us this evening. So you're in Phoenix right now, aren't you? That's fantastic. Wow, you guys are really efficient. So you've been doing this for a while. How many grave markers have you restored? Wow. So it's not that hard to do? I could do it myself? That's an amazing story. I'm just, my hat is off to you. Thank you so much, because it's so important. It's something that people don't even think about it. You're also on Facebook, right, Tom?
Tom, Tom, it's Martin. I have a quick question for you. I understand you are a Marine. Oh,
Ruben Gallego. Well,
oh yeah. Hey, Tom, I have a quick question for you. Can you, in 30 seconds or less, tell me about a very unique moment while you were restoring a grave marker that just stands out for you?
Tom Pollock, I'm sorry because time clocks here, man. Thank you so much for being on our show. I appreciate it. It's Tom Pollock, Mission Restore Bronze Markers, and we'll put you on our Facebook site. We hope you come back again, okay? Thanks, Tom. Thanks for all you do. And thank you for listening. Keep listening to the Chips and Salsa Show here with Martin, George, and Alice. Don't go away.
Did you call me away?
I just made that in. Woo!
You know, the reason
I'll call
I
you
said,
away.
the reason, because I saw him profiled in
Do you have some information?
U.S.
on
Marine
that?
Corps Life, and I thought he was a Marine.
Oh,
I
you can have that.
something else I'm doing. I haven't got too many. I do more stuff now that I'm semi-retired than I ever did in my real life. I'm about 2/3, maybe half the way through getting my certification as a veteran service officer for the VA. I did that because I wanted to be able to take on people like John McCain and speak from what is really there rather than, well, we'll take care of it, we'll throw money at it.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a great program, Vietnam Veterans. I'll get a hold of this guy. He could probably get some money from the Vietnam veterans to do his stuff.
And he's local.
Yeah, he's actually lives in Chicago, but he came out here and he got so busy that he's been living here for a while. But he still has a home back in Chicago.
That's wild.
And he just takes off. I mean, it's too bad he couldn't come to the studio because it's so much harder to do the interview on the phone because you can't see them and talk
Yeah.
to them.
But he was good.
But he
That's a
did
great
good job.
test, Alice.
That was. I
He's-
enjoyed it.
well,
And
we've
I'm
been
gonna,
trying to get him for, and
I'm
I was
gonna-
going to say that on the air. We've been trying to get him for a year, but that's how busy he's been. But it worked out perfect
Yeah.
because this is a perfect
That
weekend
was
to have him.
introduced.
This is the weekend to do it, and now we have Bruce, and with the Memorial Day, everything's working so far.
if you send him a email or something thanking him, tell him I'm going to pass that on to Vietnam vets in Washington.
Okay.
And I may go to their national convention in Tucson in a couple of weeks.
Our next guest, Bruce, is going to pass your information on to Vietnam's vets in Washington. Thanks again.
So, George, you're going to bring it in and bring it out, this third segment.
And that's me.
Yep. You and George.
Do I have to do a test?
You should be fine.
Hello. Oh,
Check one.
How's the volume? Is okay?
what?
The volume's okay?
Yeah,
Oh.
but I didn't hear anything out of the mic.
You won't until we go on the air. When this light turns on, we'll be on.
Alice, I think that's so cool that you have been to the Arlington Cemetery.
How much
That was
time?
awesome.
How much time?
We're going to go from 8:30 to about 8:45.
To start, before we start?
No, how much time are you giving me? About 15 minutes? 14 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
10 to 14.
It was very cool to be there. We went to Arlington Cemetery,
Yeah.
and you know, I could have spent like the whole day there, and we saw JFK's grave and everything.
Really?
DC's awesome. Have you been to DC?
No, Relaine hasn't. She said it's unbelievable. I would love to go. She said
It's-
you could do a whole week just in D.C.
Oh yeah, easy. It's awesome.
Where?
Washington, D.C. She
Oh,
loved it.
I would love to go. Then we should go all together.
We should go as Chips and
That'd be
Salsa.
fun.
Yeah.
Take the show on the road. We'll do the show like from radio stations from here to there.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Well,
Be
that
so
would be
cool.
cool.
That would be cool.
Work on that for us, Bruce.
Yeah, work on it for us.
Salsa show
Yeah, introduce
We get in a
us.
bus.
with our logo on the side.
Chips and Salsa.
Little molcajete.
Hey, Hannity does it. Rush does it. We can do it. Here we are in Bowling Green, Kentucky. On
We picked up the accent.
www.
Martine's talking. We picked up the
1100
accent.
AM.
Chips and Salsa show.
On Woohoo 101 FM.
Ándale.
Welcome back to your Chips and Salsa show today. Our in-studio guest, we have with us Alice Lara
Hola, hey, getting my guac on, George.
And Martin Gonzalez.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
Go, go, Gonzalez.
Go, go, Gonzalez.
Go, go.
And Jorge B. Our in-studio guest is Bruce Lindquist. He's from LD 27, that's Legislative District 27. He's a candidate for Arizona State Legislator, but also he's involved in so many things, and today he's here talking about what he's involved in, and a topic people don't talk too much about, which is the death penalty. So I'm going to let Bruce introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself and talk about his topic, so we can, and callers, you're welcome to call in. This is a very controversial topic.
Thank you, George. First of all, I got drafted in the Marine Corps in 1969 out of ASU. Spent 20 months in Vietnam, came back, and then I wanted to go to school. It didn't work, and I went to work for an architectural firm. That led me to become an architect in about 7 years. Our architectural firm did a lot of prisons and jail work, and I started doing marketing. That led me to go to California, and I was the person that was instrumental. If anybody knows friends that have served time in Pelican Bay, the Supermax unit up in Del Norte County, that's there because I met the California Department of Corrections people and actually sold it to them. Shortly after that, I went over and spent about 5 years of my life traveling back and forth Phoenix to Los Angeles on the Twin Towers project, the new 5,500 beds of jail in downtown Los Angeles. I was a project engineer on that. I tell you that to give you a little bit of background. And when I was talking to George, he asked if I had anything unique, and I said, well, the jails and prisons and stuff, but it's sort of normal. And I said, well, one thing I do remember is about 1985-86, the California Department of Corrections called and said, come up and visit us. You bring Lloyd Bramlett, your correctional man, with you. We got to talk to you. They wouldn't tell me. I didn't want to go, and after half hour of arguing back and forth, they said, well, we want to talk about the death house in San Quentin. So what that led to is Lloyd and I went up, we talked to them, and we wrote a report that says they should get rid of the execution with gas and go to lethal injection. That was a great idea at the time, but if anybody has been following what has happened now, the executions have slowed down, and mainly because the various organizations, the states, and sometimes it's other people in the states too that do it because they have correctional identities. But the feds have stopped the manufacturing of drugs. So the combination of drugs that used to work are no longer available. Arizona executed a gentleman in 14. His last name was Wood, and it was a disastrous event that took over 2 hours. When I was talking to George, I said, you know, this is really sad because my wife has spent 40 years as a surgical tech for a vet, and they put animals down all the time as humane as possible. And we have horses where we live out in Levine, and I've had to help our vet put down 4 different horses. And when you can put a 1,400 pound horse down in a matter of about 2.5 to 3 minutes with no suffering and not falling down or anything, they're just eased down. They give them a tranquilizer, and then they put some phenobarbital in them, and boom, they fall asleep, their heart stops, the vet leans over, checks his heart, and he said he's gone, closes his eyes, and it's just a simple process. But the federal government has made it a disaster. Currently there's 31 states that still have the death penalty. I'm looking at some stats right here. Right now in 2015 there were 28 executions. So far in 16 there's been 16. They've changed the protocol on all the drugs, and last week Pfizer said they're not going to manufacture a drug. So that poses a problem. State of Arizona has a moratorium by the judge because of the problem they had with inmate Wood, and it took so long to confirm the execution. Right now, January 1st, 2016, Arizona ranks number 8 in the country with 125 inmates on death row. There's 2,943 inmates currently, and that's in the states and in the federal government. That means the federal government and the military. Real quick, 2016, I'm looking, there's been about 7 or 8. In Arizona hasn't had any because we're under the court order. Now there are several states that don't do it anymore because the governors just signed an order, said we're not going to execute people anymore. There's big controversy between executions. Do they stop crime or help it? Executions have been around since 1100 BC. Anybody that's listening to me right now will know who probably the most famous person that was ever executed in the world. And that happened about 2,000 years ago, and that was Jesus Christ. That same method of his execution is still viable and used in several countries, Sudan for one. So this is not a new topic. It's been around for a long time, and we just have to realize that the states are charged with doing it, or the federal government at their level, and if the government would get out of it and allow the people to do it properly, whether you're for it or against it, and I don't know whether I'm for it or against it, but if you're going to do it right, do it humanely, and get it done in a hurry.
Bruce?
Yes.
I want to ask you, so right now the states that do have capital punishment, they're all done by lethal injection. Are there any other methods that other states use?
Oh, in 1976, when they put a moratorium on, Utah brought the firing squad back, and that raised a lot of hullabaloo. Executions since 1976 have been 1,261 by lethal injection, 158 by electrocution, 11 by gas chamber, 3 by hanging, and 3 by fire squad. That's since 1976. 76 was a pivotal year. The Supreme Court kind of put a stay on all of it for a couple years. And I can't tell you right now, most of the states are having a hard time. Texas, Georgia has had 5 this year. Texas has had 6. Florida has 1. Missouri has had 1. And Alabama has had 1. That's the executions for this year.
Pretty much they're all trying to use lethal
Right
injection.
now, most of them went to that because it was a very good system when they were allowed to have the products that worked. And the FDA and the federal government, I got a letter in my file right here that Attorney General Holder sent out to several governors, and they said, well, we're going to look at these drugs, and all it was you can't use these anymore. So 11 states wrote back and said, well, what are we supposed to use? If you remember the controversy with Arizona, they bought them from France, I believe, and got in trouble because the federal government wouldn't let them import it. Now here's kind of a kicker in all of this right now. There was an article in the paper in April. This is very timely for you too on a radio show. The article says that can executions be carried out legally? This is the Arizona Republic, April 23rd, I believe, Saturday. And then it goes on to say that in 2010, the Department of Corrections had to scramble and have agencies in other states help them to legally acquire lethal injection. Many drug makers and foreign governments banned the use and export of the drugs for execution. According to a recent statement in court, Arizona Department of Corrections remaining lethal death drugs expire on May 31st. That's a couple days away. So I guess with that in mind, we can sort of say that until there's a new drug that's found, or the state decides to go back to hanging or something like that, then we're kind of in a bind. There's not going to be any more executions in Arizona.
I can't believe it, but the segment's just about over. So right now, as you say, that is going to expire. Does Arizona have any plans to what they will do to carry out an execution? Do you know?
No, because they've set with lethal injection, so they're going to have to redo that, and that's put together by the legislative law and everything, so they'd have to change it. I haven't talked to anybody, kind of on purpose. I didn't want to step on anybody's toes.
Certainly.
Can we hold you back for another segment so you could continue this?
Sure, and if anybody wants to call in, call in.
You can call in at 602-277-5369.
And listen to the Chips and Salsa show in a little while. We'll be right back.
Did I do all right?
Hey, Bruce, I'm going to ask you a question
Thank you.
about lethal gas. I'm going to ask you a question about Donald Eugene Harding because he was the last person in Arizona who was executed with lethal gas.
And when was it?
That was in April of 1992.
Okay.
And Arizona is one of 4 states that can use lethal gas. California, Missouri, and Wyoming as a method. And I'm just wondering if what it would take for them to revert back to that as an option.
Oh, you can
You know?
ask. I'll tell you. I probably don't know, but it's going to take some kind of an act of legislation.
You want to bring it in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, bring it up. That's fine.
Yeah, because it's interesting because it's like, well, if lethal injection is not an option, lethal gas was an option, and lethal gas was hydrogen cyanide, carbon dioxide, and carbon monoxide. So basically, the person asphyxiates.
And they got rid of it
And
because
cruel
it
and
was
unusual. Cruel and
inhumane,
unusual
people
punishment.
said. Because they'd cry and all this stuff.
You mean
and-
as they were asphyxiating?
Yeah,
out?
yeah.
But they'd rather see somebody suffer for 2 hours.
Well, let's forget. Wait a minute. I mean, it's insane because remember they're there because they killed people.
Yeah.
Yes,
They
yes,
made people suffer.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
My boss went to go, when we were working at the radio station, he went to witness an execution. It was a guy that he knew in high school. I can't remember who the guy was here in Arizona. And what they tell you, what he was told is, you have to think about, just like you say, okay, the guy's dying, it's horrible. You don't want to see anybody die. But what did he do? He'd killed people, and he had, tortured them and done all these awful things.
99% of the people that are convicted, men and women, don't ask me how many because I can't find it, but there's several women that are on this list. And it's for like capital murder or a police officer or something. There are some other death penalty things, but they're very,
And to
very-
get to that point, because they just keep retrying it and appeal and appeal and appeal. So to get to
Yeah, they
that
have
point
so
on
much
death row,
ways
my gosh.
To extend that. They can
What was the name of
appeal
that
and appeal.
movie?
If they have enough money, they could just
Susan
keep going
Hayworth,
for
I'll
years.
Cry Tomorrow.
yes.
Our studio guest.
That's
is
a great movie.
Bruce Lindquist. We're talking about the death penalty and lethal injection. And Bruce, I wanted to ask
Let's
you.
give away some gift certificates tonight. Come on.
Oh, that's right. I should mention that first.
Yeah.
The certificates?
Yeah. We have 2 last time. 2 people called in. The last show.
Da 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 da. And I gave that one that you gave me.
You realize that there are security things and the stuff with Hillary Clinton. If they push the point, she could get the death penalty for that.
She can
She could.
because
Oh,
treason
talk
is
about
a
that.
Capital crime.
capital crime.
Talk about that. That's
Treason
great.
is a capital crime.
That's a great thing.
Yeah,
to
you
talk
want to bring that up because that's all they have to do is prove.
Yeah, but they'll never.
Well,
about. Still.
They'll pardon her before that would ever happen. You
well,
can't
that's what
execute-
would happen.
Yeah.
So that
Obama would pardon
you
her.
Trump
No.
should be here and you could ask him that question.
I don't
Would you
mind
go
saying
after?
that because anybody that's had a security clearance knows what it's about, and I had a security clearance.
Yeah.
Was she compromised
And you're
our security?
if you don't give a shit, then you're like her. But if you believe in the security clearances,
Chinese have
it's
all our
really
stuff.
important.
Well, they sold them. Her and Bill sold them. And they started doing that in. I will take fancy hats any day of the week. Hello and welcome back. You're listening to the Chips and Salsa Show right here on 1100 KFNX. I'm Martin Gonzalez, and in the studio that we lovingly refer to as El Molcajete is America's Oracle, Alice Lara.
Hola, Martin. I think you'd look great in a hat.
Thank you very much. And Don Jorge Ortiz.
Órale.
de Alacrán.
Orale Ortiz. Gogo
Órale,
Gonzalez.
Ortiz.
Órale, pues.
Hey, we need to take George to Rosita's because George, it's been a while since the three of us.
The
have been
three
to
of us
Rosita's.
have to go to
I
Rositas.
know,
You're
I
right.
love Rosita's.
Maybe we'll
What's not
take
to
Josh
love?
with us too, who
They
loves
have,
Rositas.
they have 2 locations. They have that one in Tempe. It's an institution. It's
It
been
is.
there for over 50 years. It's legendary. I mean, I think about Rosita's and I think of that hot sauce that they give you right the second you sit down, that red hot sauce.
My
Oh.
favorite one, the real
And-
hot one, salsa.
Yes, and you know what's really good is when you put that red hot sauce on a crispy cheese crisp from Rositas.
Or a beef taco, my favorite.
Oh, man. Oh.
On anything,
Se me
really.
hizo agua la boca. So anyway, go to Rosita's. That's all we're saying. It's incredible, delicious food. There's 2 locations, the one in Tempe, Harding University, the one in Mesa off of Guadalupe and Dobson, near Dobson Ranch. So check that out.
Martin, I'm out of here. I'm going to Rosita's
You
right
going,
now.
Bruce?
All
Heck
right,
yeah.
all right.
You just heard the voice of Bruce Lindquist, and we're talking about the death penalty. And you know, Bruce, I was just thinking, and I wanted to talk to you about Donald Eugene Harding, who was executed here in Arizona on April 6, 1992, and the method of execution was lethal gas.
Yes.
And, you know, we talk so much about lethal injection and how that may no longer be available, but lethal gas has been used by various states, and it's a very simple process, really. It's chemistry. You know, they combine hydrogen cyanide, carbon dioxide, and carbon monoxide, and they pump it into a sealed chamber, and the person in the room basically is asphyxiated. And the last time that was used was when Fife Symington was the governor. My question is to you, is there any chance that we might go to that in the future, and what would it take to go to that if we did, if we could?
Well, they used it. I would assume the gas chamber is still down in Florence. I haven't seen it. 20-some years ago I looked at it. I believe it would take some act of the legislature to change the method of execution. They've used it before. It was the one that was preferred for a while. Electrocution came about after that, but both of them, when the witnesses were there, they'd see the inmate flailing around and crying and, you know, all of this stuff, so they thought that was inhumane punishment, as it's covered, you know, in the Bill of Rights and everything.
But Bruce, isn't that ironic? Because what was inhumane was the way the person who
Got to where they're at.
Got to where they're at. That's
Yes.
right. What they did to the victims was inhumane. In the case of Douglas Eugene Harding, there were 3 victims involved: Alan Gage, Robert Weiss, and Martin Concannon.
Right.
And so he was executed for their murders. What he did to them was brutal. So for him to suffer a little bit for a few minutes, it's hardly payback, but it is important.
In that same line, I haven't checked recently, but I know the state had a law for execution. If you stole horses or cattle years ago, they'd hang you. There were a lot of people that up until statehood, as we were a territory, were just hung for capital crimes.
You know, Bruce, my mother, I remember, my mom would be like in her 90s if she were alive today, but she said in Las Cruces, New Mexico, they had the gallows still there. Now, she never saw anybody hung or anything, but you could go down there and they still had the gallows out there. Can you imagine? That must have been very, if you saw somebody actually being killed, a public execution, I think that could be a good detriment.
Would you go to a public execution?
Would I go to a
Would
public
you go?
execution?
Yeah, if like it
That's
was held like in a
interesting.
town
You know
square,
what?
like
You wouldn't
would you
have
go?
to anymore because they would show it.
I would
Would
watch
you
it.
watch
Would
it?
you? I would watch it.
You know, I might make
Heck
myself
yeah, I would
watch
watch
it
it.
because
You know,
if
but-
I'm in favor of capital punishment, I might make myself watch it because if I'm in favor of it, I should be able
But you
to
know,
stomach
to
it.
me, I mean, they put a hood over their head. They put the, you know, they give them the last, you know, say, you know,
Last rites.
last, you know, you can say something. They put the hood over you. They tighten up the noose, and there's 3 guys, and they, you fall
Quick and
down,
dirty.
and it's quick. I mean, and for capital punishment, whatever he did was really serious. So to die like that, Saddam Hussein, that's how they killed him.
Right.
You know, and it was over. 1, 2, 3, dead.
Sign me up. I'm for it.
Last
it.
last summer, I took my 2 daughters that are 45 and 50, their husbands, and we went to Jamestown because I wanted to go back to the beginning of the United States, and then we went to Williamsburg. You walk down the Duke of Gloucester Street to the end, there's a gallows right there in Williamsburg, Virginia, and it's all the old-time stuff and everything. And like I said earlier, the death penalty has been around for a long time, and at the federal level, different crimes treason is the big one at the federal level, and there's somebody that's being checked out for emails right now that Lord knows there might be a link to treason to the United States in that.
Who would you be speaking of, Bruce?
Who could you be speaking of? You know, it could be, the argument could be made that Hillary's actions are treasonous, because treason is defined by a betrayal of our own country. She has betrayed our country by compromising our security, by the emails that she and the computers that she allowed other people access to.
Things we don't even know about.
Well, we don't even know.
Just alone the ones that we have been able to confirm.
Haven't been, I do not have a current active security clearance right now, but anybody that's ever had a security clearance, they know what the rules are. They know what happens. And the person you're speaking of, she's at the second or third highest level in the country. You got to understand what kind of stuff she had and she was talking about. It's just inconceivable that something wasn't compromised and all of that. But going back to the whole thing, there's something's got to happen, Martin. The various states that still have it, and with 31 or 32 states that are doing it, we're well over 50% of the country is still there. When you talk to the people in the country about it, it'll vary, but it's very close to 52 to 47% for or against, and you interview them again, it'll flip the other way. So even the country is very, very accurately displayed as the states right now for the numbers that have it. Some of them have never had it. Michigan hasn't had the death penalty since 1880. There's a state that's had a lot of crime and everything
Detroit?
The,
Yes.
The American Civil Liberties Union has said that there is no credible evidence that the death penalty deters crime more effectively than long-term imprisonment. States that have the death penalty laws do not have lower crime rates or murder. But the law professor of jurisprudence has said that common sense, lately bolstered by statistics, tells us that the death penalty will deter murder. People fear nothing more than death.
Yes, and that's true in a lot of cases. But long-term incarceration for life is a burden on us as citizens, because it costs anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a year to keep an inmate. We've got a very famous criminal in our state right now, Jodi Arias, that's got life in prison, and her trial cost $3.5 million. Yeah. And there's about 6 million people here, so you divide that out, that's, we the people are paying that. And if the death penalty was used, that's a simple process, and then we don't have the long-term costs.
Well, since abortion is legal, so let's take care of that first before we worry about capital
Retroactive abortion.
Yeah, retroactive abortion.
Here's the thing that just kind of drives me crazy about it, and that is that it would be an effective deterrent
if it was used.
If it was used
yeah,
quickly.
We have no idea.
Yes.
If you said, if you commit a crime within 1 year of you being convicted and sentenced to murder, to the death penalty, that it was carried out, then yes, guess what? It's going to be effective.
It takes 10 to 16 years to carry out a death penalty.
Wow. See, so who's gonna stick around for that? But we do want you to stick around for more of the Chips and Salsa show.
Nope,
Not anymore
that's it.
tonight, right? Because it's over. But we want you to stick around for next Friday, June 3rd, when we'll all be back together talking about all kinds of crazy stuff.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you,
Tomorrow
Bruce. Appreciate
weekend.
your part in the show, and thank you for your service to our country, Bruce. It means a lot. Thank you for listening.